Congratulations on making it this far into the fantasy football playoffs. It is time for the semifinals for most of you. For you sickos, if this is the beginning of your playoffs, you need to stop that. Now, one thing I do want to talk about right off the top is Lamar Jackson. He was limited in practice on Monday, and people are freaking out. And I think that you will probably hear the same from me that you'll hear from a lot of people, and that is if Lamar Jackson is going to be the quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens Thursday night against the New York Jets, he is starting for your fantasy team. I was in a situation like this a number of years ago. I think it was 3 years. It was Dak Prescott's rookie season. I do know that. I had him. I had Marcus Mariota. I was streaming both of these quarterbacks for the majority of the year, relying mostly on Dak Prescott. And when we got into the championship game, it was week 16, obviously. They were saying, he might not play a full game. We don't know what's going to happen. Marcus Mariota was in a game against the Jags that they needed to win to get in the playoffs, something like that. So in any event, I chose I'm going to play it smart, and I'm going to go with Mariota and see what happens. And then he breaks his leg. Dak has a wonderful, wonderful performance. And I had him stacked with should have had him stacked with Des Bryant at that time. But the point being is I didn't start Dak against my better judgment because I wanted to do the matchup. I was overthinking things. Do not make that same mistake. Listen, Lamar Jackson, for a lot of us, and I know that in Fantasy League One, one of the reasons why I'm in first place is because Lamar Jackson. And, I said at the beginning of the year that he was going to be my ride or die in a lot of leagues. And I feel like I'm going to definitely be putting that to the case. And let's be perfectly honest. We've seen a lot of instances where Lamar Jackson has not played in the fourth quarter, and we've seen a lot of RG3, and you know what? It still worked out pretty well. I still believe that Lamar Jackson could go out and give you 20, 25 points. And imagine, if you're in your playoff matchup, how demoralizing that would be if you're going up against somebody. I know the fantasy footballers will probably feel this, but we'll go out there and they'll be like, you're starting Lamar. Good luck to you. And so then Lamar will go out there and put up 29 points in 3 quarters. And I'll be like, sucks to be you guys. Good luck streaming Jameis Winston, who will probably go out there and have a monster game against the Detroit Lions. And I will end up losing. But whatever, I will go out with my guy. Now, a couple of quarterbacks you could look at if you're going to be needing to stream some guys. Obviously, Baker Mayfield has a pretty good matchup against the Arizona Cardinals, and you guys will be like, well, weren't you guys talking about starting Duck Hodges? I'm like, yeah, kind of. We did talk about that, and I did have him in a league, and I lost to Neil Dutton, and it would have been closer if I had a quarterback who scored, 90 points, because Neil had a team that blew up. But anyways, nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about my teams, the Paul's Boutique League, and yes, it's named after that famed Beastie Boys album. Or you kids would call it a drop. What you used to do when you were a kid, you would buy a group of songs together in a thing called an album. But anyways, Baker Mayfield is going to be a pretty good start. Ryan Fitzpatrick will also be on the list. I'm not really excited about that one. I'm like, back-to-back weeks in the Meadowlands. I don't know if they're staying up there. I just don't like the idea. And I said this last week. I don't want a Miami quarterback going and playing in New York. That is something I'm definitely going to avoid. Derek Carr's got a really great matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. In fact, that is going to be one of the players that I'm going to be picking up here in Fantasy League One. Actually, the player I'm going to be picking up in Fantasy League One is Phillip Rivers, because everybody has shot him into the sun. Like, we want nothing to do with this guy. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, the one place you can attack the Minnesota Vikings is through the air, and Phillip Rivers is out there running his mouth, doing his thing, having a great time, having the time of his life. So I do like Phillip Rivers as well, but Derek Carr going up against the Jags. And I think that anytime you can play any player going up against the Jags this late in the season, you have to go and do it. So you go out there, you pick up Derek Carr, and let's get to the running back position. And there's another guy. I did a video on Mitch Trubisky. If you want to go back and check that out, we talked about how this is his moment to shine. I'm not going to be streaming him by any sense of the imagination. I think Derek Carr is pretty good, and we can go with DeAndre Washington. Now, we won't have full clarity on what is going to be happening with Josh Jacobs. But you hear shoulder injury, you think running back. That is a huge problem. That has been something that has been slowing down James Conner so far this season. So I think it's a pretty good indication that Josh Jacobs, even if he does go, he's going to be a little bit limited. And if you're somebody who has lost some help at running back, I know that I have lost Rashad Penny. Benny Snell might not be effective this week because James Conner could return. DeAndre Washington is going to be one of my top priorities, if not the top priority for me, even though I kind of want to insulate myself at the quarterback position. I think that DeAndre Washington is going to be somebody that would want to get. Of course, if Raheem Mostert is still available in your league, I should still point that out. Like if Raheem Mostert's there, if Ryan Tannehill is there, obviously you pick those guys up. But I didn't want to spend too much time. But the one thing is the Raiders gave Washington a featured role last week, and he had 20 touches, 96 yards. And again, this Jags team does not want to be playing football at this point. They're already making plans. And I'm representing Team AEW right now, of course, but I think that they're going to have to blow that thing up and just start from scratch. I think they have some nice pieces. It'll be interesting to see what they do with some of the veterans like Calais Campbell, where he's going to end up. Hey, listen, buddy. Hey, Calais, I know you'll be a free agent next season, probably. If you want to come to Chicago, we wouldn't mind having you. You and Akeem Hicks sitting there? Oh, my gosh. Anyways, I'll probably go somewhere else and dominate. Anyways, A.J. Brown is also another good one. He's probably not on your waiver wire, but again, do your due diligence. See if he's available. That should be a top priority, too. I had A.J. Brown as one of my top rookies coming into the season, and I had an Instagram post ready to go. Didn't post it at the beginning of the year because I was worried about Marcus Mariota. I'm like, God, I don't really like this Titans team, and you now know why. That's part of the reason why I picked them to finish 3-13 is I'm like, look at this quarterback situation. They were 2-4, and they got lucky that the Browns are a dumpster fire. They should have been 1-5, like I had predicted, and they would have been on the road to ruin. I didn't realize that Ryan Tannehill was going to be the second coming of Joe Montana, but it's been incredible what he's been able to do. You can't ignore it. So Tanny, A.J. Brown, he's good. Adrian Peterson, I'm sure somebody probably rage dropped him at some point. Everybody was very excited about Darius Geis, but Adrian Peterson is now back into our lives. Geis is probably going to miss some significant time, if not for the rest of the year. So go out and give him a shot and see. The matchup's okay, but you know what? Bill Callahan, Bill Callahan loves to run the football. And that's one of the things that we've noticed ever since he's taken over as quarterback of that, or as head coach of that team, is that he loves to run the football, and that's what we expect them to do. Adrian Peterson finishing out strong. So, again, we're looking for help on the waiver wire at this point, and I know it's not ideal here in the semifinals for most fantasy leagues, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Anthony Miller is another receiver that I'm looking at. He's had at least 4 games. He's had 4 games with at least 11 points. He's had 9 targets in 4 of his last 5. He's an exasperating player sometimes because in that game against the Rams, he had some brutal drops, but he has been playing very well. And again, I know that all the haters are going to come out and be like, oh, the Bears are playing the Giants. And you're right. Absolutely. Now they have their opportunity against the Green Bay Packers. And let's be perfectly honest, the Green Bay Packers did not look good against Washington, and they've been the least convincing playoff team so far. I know Seattle went down and got pantsed by the Rams, but they're the only NFC team that beat the San Francisco 49ers, so I feel a little bit better about them. In any event, that is a wide receiver that, again, if you need to pick up somebody, because obviously there was a lot of huge injuries this week. We have missed guys. Calvin Ridley's out. Mike Evans expected to probably be out as well. So many players are going down. But Juju Smith is coming back. There's some good news, I guess. If you need to stream a tight end, remember last week we were kind of off Jack Doyle. We were big proponents of Zach Pascal. They have another interesting matchup as well. We do like the Seahawks defense this week. I mean, it's an easy one. I've kept the Seahawks on the bench. And I was wondering why. I'm like, why do I have the Seahawks on the bench? But it turns out, I'm like, oh yeah, they got Carolina in Week 15, so that should be pretty good. Kyle Allen is, still the starting quarterback there for the Carolina Panthers, and I don't know why the Panthers still think they're going to move on from Cam Newton. What have you seen over the last couple of weeks that leads you to believe, like, yeah, this is what we need to do. This is the route that we need to take. But in any event, good luck to everybody. Obviously, the Eagles are a good streamer. But good luck, everybody. Enjoy the playoffs. Hopefully, we'll see you here next week as you get ready for your championship game.